Hello and welcome to an Ocean Australian guide to property law with Jen and Richard, where today we'll be talking about a few government entities that may be a part of your interactions and journey in property. In particular, we'll be talking about the State Revenue Office, the Australian Tax Office, and the Council.
Let's start first of all with the State Revenue Office. The State Revenue Office, or the SRO for short, is a state-level department responsible for assisting the Victorian Government with revenue management as a part of the Victorian Treasury Department. They are the main entity that carries out Victoria's taxation legislation, as well as handing out certain government grants for property. Let's look into a few of those now.
The first home buyer duty reduction is a grant given by the State Revenue Office to individuals who are buying their first ever property. With all property purchases, there is additional tax that is a part of that purchase. This tax is called stamp duty. In essence, the first home buyer duty reduction allows the purchaser to potentially be eligible for an exemption or concession of stamp duty.
Stamp duty follows tax brackets much like personal income tax does, and the amount that is required to be paid is based on how much the property is sold for. For the first $25,000 of the property's value, stamp duty is 1.4%. From $25,000 to $130,000, it is 2.4%. And from $130,000 to $960,000, it is 6%. If the property is worth more than $960,000, stamp duty is a flat 5.5%.
Let's have a look at two different properties to see how much their stamp duty would be. For our first property, it has a selling price of $1.1 million. The total amount of stamp duty would be calculated by taking 5.5% of its value, which works out to be $60,500. For our second house, valued at $950,001, stamp duty would be $52,070. This is calculated by adding the maximum amounts from the first bracket, which totals to $350, the maximum amounts of the second bracket, which totals to $2,520, and 6% of the remaining $820,000 that is a part of the third bracket.
The First Home Owners Grant is another grant done by the State Revenue Office that is for brand new homes. This grant is valued at $10,000 and is only applicable for properties that are brand new and have never had a resident live there before, and has a contracted value of less than $750,000.
There is no doubt that property is expensive, and the Victorian Government recognises this. A Victorian Homebuyer Fund could potentially be a way to alleviate some of those costs. This fund allows the Victorian Government to contribute up to 25% of the purchasing price in return for a share of the property. Purchasers may be eligible for this fund provided they fit the following criteria. They have a 5% deposit and they are able to pay back the government for what is being owed. Repayments to the Victorian Government, unlike loans by the bank, do not accumulate interest.
Now let's talk about the council and how they affect your property. Councils have far more interactions with your property than state or Commonwealth government departments would, ranging from utilities to council rates and modifications to the property. Council rates are taxes put in place by the council and are required to be made by the homeowner to fund local infrastructure and services. If you want to add, subtract, or modify your property in some way, there may be licenses and requirements that need to be obtained by the council based on legislations they have put in place.
Finally, let's talk about the taxes from income generated by properties. Income from rental properties are taxed the same as any other stream of income, and as such, property owners who are renting their property out will need to interact with the Australian Tax Office to pay the correct amount of tax based on their earnings. For foreign property investors, they may need to approach the Foreign Investment Review Board to see if they are eligible to invest in property in Australia.
Thanks for watching. If you've liked this video, then please feel free to watch our other videos on property law. If you have further questions about government entities in relation to property, or you just have a general question you'd like to ask regarding property law, please don't hesitate to call or email us with your inquiry.